Good evening. Welcome to Conversations with the Candidates, brought to you by the League of Women Voters Education Fund and Houston Media Source. My name is Jeff Reichman, and I'm joined with my co-host Amy Carl. And early voting has begun. We have record lines in Harris County. We're very excited about that at the League of Women Voters, and it's an apropos topic because we're going to be interviewing candidates for the Harris County Tax Assessor and Collector today. Amy will now introduce our first candidate.
Mr. Mike Sullivan was sworn in as Harris County Tax Assessor-Collector on January 1st of 2013. Prior to being elected, Mr. Sullivan was elected to the Humble ISD Board of Trustees in 2004 and Houston City Council representing District E in 2008. He was elected to his third and final term on council in 2011. Previously, Governor Rick Perry also appointed Mr. Sullivan to serve on a 9-member task force on unfunded mandates, and Governor Greg Abbott appointed Mr. Sullivan to a 6-year term on his Military Preparedness Commission. Mr. Sullivan and his wife, Kim, own and operate Mike Sullivan Realty, LLC.
Good evening.
Good to have you here.
Mike, thank you for joining us. To begin, please discuss your unique qualifications to serve in the role of Tax Assessor and Collector.
Sure, you bet. Well, first of all, I'm in my first term, so I'm the incumbent. We've successfully operated the office for almost 4 years now. And my background as a small business owner, school board member, city council member, and being around county politics for years has certainly helped me. When I walked into the door of the tax office, there was room for a lot of improvement, and I think that we've delivered on those campaign promises. Deficits that we saw going in were improving customer service, embracing technology, and advocating for the taxpayer. And I'm absolutely the most qualified candidate for this, for the re-election.
If you are re-elected Tax Assessor-Collector, what would your top 3 focus areas be in serving the county and its citizens, and why?
Well, the technology still is evolving constantly. So improving customer service, while we've been focused on it for 4 years, it never ends. We find ways to provide new services on a regular basis. For instance, when I came into office, there were no, they didn't take credit cards. So, you know, we initiated taking credit cards at all the windows at all the branches, and we now do that. There was no military help desk, so we created a military help desk because of the large population in Harris County of military, both active and retired. So every day we see new opportunities, and I think I'm probably well known for outreach. I'm in the office, we run the office well. I have a great team that is focused on the details and helps me fulfill the vision of the office. But while I'm out all day, every day, visiting with people, speaking to groups, we hear what the needs are, and that will continue to evolve as we move into our second term.
Excellent. Transparency is a hot topic at every level of government this season. What is your vision for transparency for the Harris County Tax Assessor and Collector's Office and the citizens of Harris County?
Well, transparency is important. I believed in it on the school board, I believed in it at city council, and I believe and practice it here. It's neat to be the tax assessor collector because I'm actually in charge. When I was on city council, I was one of a body, and when I was on the school board, I was one of a body. So here I can come forward and I can look at something, find a need, and identify what needs to be done. Transparency is important to me. Give you an idea, the most recent improvement we've made is that we have put an online open records request system into our website. We have a robust website that we update on a regular basis depending upon what season we're in. So if we're in tax bill season, we'll update it for tax bills. If we're in voter registration, we have voter registration links prominently displayed at the top. So we use social media, we use technology. All of that is transparent, it's real time, and it serves the public very well.
Would you please discuss an example of a time that you have made a decision that may have not been politically popular, but was in the interest of the taxpayers of the county? Follow-up, do you feel that it is important for this position to be independent of partisan influence, and why or why not?
Let me answer the last part first, because that's on my mind. When I was on school board, it's nonpartisan. When I ran for city council, it's nonpartisan. You file for the ballot. Everybody goes on one list, if you will. And I come over to run for tax office. And of course, we're a two-party state in Texas. You either file as a Democrat or a Republican. I have a long history of Republican activism. But I've enjoyed the tax office. When I campaigned, I said I would take politics out of the tax office because for years it had a reputation of being a political organization. It was important for me to take the politics out. We've done that. We've put new leadership in key places, and we feel like we are nonpartisan. We feel like we've absolutely followed the law, and it doesn't matter if it's following the law on property taxes, license plates and automobile titles, or voter registration. Our mantra, and we say it often, is we follow the law. And if you'd repeat the first part of the question, made a decision that
may not have necessarily been politically popular, but you felt was either in the interest of the office or the taxpayers of the county.
Well, I can't think of a specific instance. I'll tell you that we just are constantly, we have our finger on the pulse of what's going on. We work well with all other jurisdictions that we work for. For instance, we have a new mayor, Sylvester Turner. I've met with him 3 or 4 times privately already. What can we do? How can we help you? As a Republican, someone may say, gee, Mike's over there working with the Democrat mayor. Well, we should, and let me tell you why. It's good for everybody. And I am the tax assessor collector for the city of Houston. It's important to have a good, positive relationship with the mayor, regardless of his politics.
Awesome. Thank you.
So as you know, the League of Women Voters is all about voter education and voter turnout. How do you plan to increase voter registration after this election and into the future?
Increasing voter registration going forward might be difficult, and I say that tongue-in-cheek, because we have set a record every year that I've been in office, and I'm proud to report that through the close of business yesterday, that's how current our numbers are, we have 2,234,497 voters registered in Harris County. Now, in all seriousness, if you take a population of 4.4 million, 4.5 million residents in Harris County, that's a phenomenal number, and we're proud of it. How did we get there? We conduct a number of voter registration drives all year long. We have partnered with neighborhood centers all year long. We go into each of the neighborhood centers communities that are spread out throughout Harris County. We conduct voter registration drives and also volunteer deputy voter registrar trainings so that we can train you, for instance, to go out into your community. You will be my deputy as the voter registrar. You become a deputy voter registrar and you register people. So going forward, we'll continue those programs. We'll be very active, and we have a history now of going into all corners of the county, not just the suburbs, not just the inner city, not the Republican, not the Democrat. We do voter registration training, the VDVR training, at the Democrat Party headquarters and at the Republican Party headquarters. So we run the voter registration department in a nonpartisan manner, and we will continue to bump those numbers up.
Great.
Historically, every 2 years, the county has purged about 100,000 voters from the voter rolls. If you could explain to the voters how that process works and whether you feel that it is fair and objective, that'd be great.
You bet. Well, as I said, my philosophy is to follow the law, and putting a voter on suspense, which is the word that we use. We think that purge has a negative connotation to it. So we use the technical legal word from the Secretary of State, which is suspense. Is it harsh or not? Is it fair or not? It's a state law, and the state legislature sets that law. And I often say that if you, and don't be offended, Amy, but I say if you don't like the law, go to Austin and work to change it. We'll help you as much as we can, but the legislature has mandated that we go through this after every federal election. So in December of this year, for instance, we will have to go through and remove everyone on suspense. What does that mean? So if someone is moved within Harris County and we send them a voter certificate and it's returned to us, then we suspect, reasonably so, that that voter doesn't live in that location anymore. So we send what's called a confirmation letter, and we send it to the new address. We don't send it to the old address that got returned to us. We get the forwarding information from the post office, send it to the new address. They have a short amount of time, proper amount of time to sign their confirmation of the new address, send it in to us. They can also go vote. So if you're on the suspense list, you can still vote as well. So It's not as bad as it sounds. It is mandated by law after every federal election, so you could potentially have 4 years to change your address, which is good. And the number, I'm also proud to say, has gone down. We anticipate removing 84 to 85,000 voters this coming December, and it will be because we work that system all year long.
Great.
Excellent. So as Houston has grown considerably over the last few years, so have some property taxes for many Harris County residents. Do you feel that this is a trend that needs to be addressed? And if so, how do you address it in the role of tax assessor and collector?
Sure, you bet. Well, let's first back up and say that the tax assessor collector does not set the appraisals. Harris County Appraisal District and the appraisal district in each of the 254 counties in Texas does an appraisal. Coincidentally, some do an appraisal every 3 years. Some counties do an appraisal every 2 years. And Harris County Appraisal District, because of the size of the county, conducts a reappraisal every year. So it is up to the appraisal district to make sure that the appraisals are fair. What we do, and what I started as the tax assessor collector 4 years ago when I was sworn in, we started putting on workshops for the public that are free and once again all over the county. Our first year we put on 12 workshops that taught people how to protest their unfair appraisals. And we do that in conjunction with HCAT. So HCAT comes to the meeting and the workshop with us. They talk about how they do their appraisals, information that they will take and review to reduce the appraisal. And then we talk to the audience as well of information on how to pay taxes, payment plans that are offered, et cetera. So what do? We need to make sure that at the state level, where the appraisal process and the caps are voted on and the laws are passed, we need to make sure that they're doing the right thing.
Do you feel that the tax assessor collector's office is sufficiently resourced? And what additional resources would you like to work to add?
It is sufficiently resourced and staffed right now. When I came into office, we had over 400 employees. Right now we have nearly 500, and we've increased the staffing through a temporary budget, a temporary payroll budget. So these are not full-time employees. They work 40 hours, but they're temporary employees, and if they perform well, then we've put them in open positions for full-time employment in the tax office. We now have every window in all 16 branch offices throughout Harris County staffed, which is good news. We've also put an information clerk at the front of the line at almost every one of the 16 branches that reviews the paperwork when you come in. So you don't stand in line, get to the front of the line, and they say, oh, you need this form notarized or you need this signed. We put a very experienced employee on the front door to greet those customers, first of all, to greet them, and then to review the paperwork to make it a little easier. So we've had to spend a lot of money on technology. We had to do a technical refresh of the office. Over 400 computers were purchased, updating the software. We went to virtual servers. I say all that to say that I have spent a lot of money, but I think I've spent it well, and I've spent it in areas that had not been spent before. And proud to say that even with a $30 million budget, we still have a $1 million surplus going forward into next year.
It's fantastic.
Long answers, and I apologize, but don't
that's great. That's what this is for. You mentioned some of the innovations that you implemented in your first term. Do you feel that it's currently efficient for residents to conduct business with the county? And what lies in store if elected to a second term? What other innovations will you implement?
Well, we do. We do think it's easy to do business with the county, and we make it easier all the time. We need to put more information up on the website as it becomes available. When you take over an organization that is behind the times, frankly, for whatever reason, either leadership or budgets, and you could make the argument either way, then you see a lot of opportunity, and you fix things both short-term and long-term. And I work closely with my directors. Let me just give you a brief picture of the operation. It's large, and that's why I tell people it matters who your tax assessor is. We have over 500 employees, 16 branch offices throughout the county. We have a $30 million budget. We collect over $6 billion in property taxes. We conduct over 5 million vehicular transactions a year, and we now have 2.234 million registered voters. So things evolve as you make those improvements. For instance, besides the computers and the technical refresh, I bought high-speed processing machines to open the mail, scan it, actually automatically deposit the accounts. We're working with the automobile dealers so that they can ACH the money and not have to write checks. That speeds up processing. We have a customer service window in the voter department now, so people can walk up and check their voter registration status, fill out forms, whatever the case may be. So we constantly evolve over time. I am keenly focused on those first three things I said, not to be too repetitive, but improving customer service, embracing technology, and advocating for the taxpayer. My directors, and they're very diverse, my directors know that those are my visions, or that is my vision, and they help me. They bring me ideas, and then I see things as well.
You and Jeff discussed property taxes earlier. If you, again, could please explain what the process is behind collecting delinquent property taxes and what your particular strategy may be to collect those.
Sure. We collect, pardon me, we collect property taxes for 71 jurisdictions. City of Houston, the large ones, City of Houston, Houston ISD, Houston Community College, and then the county. And we do some suburban cities, as I said, the city of Pasadena, city of Bel Air, a couple of small school districts. What's important about the property tax bill is the timeline. So Harris County Appraisal District, if you live in your home January 1, that is the date that they appraise the value. They do what's called a mass appraisal. So they'll go and they'll look at a large community of similar homes, and they'll figure out what the increase will be, because they don't seem to go down. And then it's up to the property owner, unfortunately, it's up to the property owner to go in and protest in the first quarter to argue their price down for whatever reason they may have. The appraisals are then certified, the appraised values are certified. The tax roll, certified tax roll, then goes to the jurisdictions, the schools, and the municipalities in the county. They set their tax rate. That information then comes to me, and we put the tax rate times the assessed value with the exemptions. We put it on the tax bill and mail it out the second week in November, because we have about 1.7 million bills that we mail at one time, and it's a lot. So we have to do that. It takes a few weeks to get it done. Once the tax bill goes out, then the bills are due January 31st. They become late February 1st. And July 1st, they become delinquent. So it's a long way to get to July 1, but July 1st, everything becomes delinquent, and it's then turned over to the county's chosen vendor law firm, which is Linebarger. Linebarger will begin the collection process. Now, we work with taxpayers before that. We offer payment plans. We make sure they have all their exemptions. We do everything we can to reduce their burden, reduce the appraised value. But if in fact it goes delinquent, then we work with Linebarger on the collections. Now, I have taken a fairly aggressive approach on business taxes and have gone out and performed what's called a seizure warrant, where you go to a business and you demand payment. If they don't provide payment, then the constables can, by law, confiscate the equipment. But every time I go out and the constables go with me, first of all, the owner has notice that we're coming, and we have a 100% collection effort, collection success rate, because they remarkably come up with the money right then. Within an hour. We give them an hour to go get a cashier's check and bring it back. Now, homeowners, that process is longer. Texas is a property rights friendly state. Homeowners have a lot of opportunity to pay their taxes or to enter into a payment plan. And Linebarger has the authority and the discretion to enter into a payment plan with delinquent individual property owners on their homes. And that's a good thing.
Thank you for explaining that.
Yes, ma'am.
Excellent. So we are almost out of time, but we have a few minutes left. If you'd like to look into the camera and address the voters directly as to why they should vote for you, be my guest.
Sure, you bet. Well, let me thank you for the fair questions. Let me thank you for being so delightful to work with, and Houston Media Source and League of Women Voters. When I first came into office, the relationship between the tax assessor collector and the League of Women Voters was adversarial at best. And we've turned that around from being adversarial to being one of partnership. And I've done that with organizations throughout Harris County, because I am here to serve you. Being the tax assessor collector is a big job, big operation. We've run it well for 4 years. We've improved it for 4 years. And I respectfully ask for the vote of everyone in Harris County. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr.
Thank
Sullivan.
you.
And we'll be right back. Stay tuned for our next conversation. Welcome back to Conversations with the Candidates, brought to you by the League of Women Voters Education Fund and Houston Media Source. Early voting has begun, so go out there and vote. I believe this is our final Conversations with the Candidates, so you should have all the information that you need. And if you want more information about the candidates, please check out the League of Women Voters website at lwvhouston.org. There's a voter's guide, and vote411.org that can help you fill out an educated and informed full ballot. We're back with Conversations with our second candidate, and my co-host Amy is going to introduce her.
Miss Ann Harris Bennett is a fifth-generation Texan and 38-year resident of Harris County. She has spent 14 and a half years in civil district court administration, 12 and a half years researching Spanish and Mexican land grants, and 12 years as a legal secretary in plaintiff and defense law firms. She was the Democratic nominee for Harris County Clerk in the 2010 general election and Tax Assessor-Collector in 2012. Miss Ann Harris Bennett.
Welcome. To begin, please discuss your unique qualifications to serve in the role of tax assessor and collector.
Well, I've spent most of my life in my professions researching documents in courthouses, tax assessor collectors' offices, and county clerk's offices. I have a background in legal in that I was a paralegal, legal secretary, as an expert witness, genealogist, for the heirs of Spanish and Mexican land grants. I also spent 14 years working with the courts as a court administrator, which dealt with records. So my experience is in record keeping and administration, and this is my passion. I enjoy doing what I do.
Excellent. Thank you.
If you are elected tax assessor collector, what would your top 3 focus areas be in serving the county and its citizens, and why?
My top priority would be to bring integrity, transparency, efficiency, and technology into an office that hasn't quite completed that job. I would also look at other ways of increasing efficiency, the long lines that taxpayers have to stand in when they're taking care of their business. This is an office that should be free of politics and cronyism, that should be serving all the citizens of the county. I would be an advocate for online voter registration, which would absolutely save the state of Texas over $10 million a year. I would advocate for Medicaid expansion, which would take the burden off of property tax owners who have to bear the burden of indigent health care costs.
That's excellent. Transparency is a hot topic at every level of government this year. What is your vision for transparency for the tax assessor collector's office and the citizens of Harris County?
Well, you know, I've always been concerned, especially over the past 4 administrations, with whether or not the purging of voter rolls is above board and whether or not it is transparent. Voter registration is a big issue in this office, and I would create partnerships with businesses, clubs and organizations, do much of what Travis County has done. Their voter registration rate there is almost at 100%. We are a very large county, and I know we're larger than Travis County, but I know that our voter registration rates should be higher than what it is. And that takes some effort on the part of the person that's holding that office. So I would be very active in partnering with the communities, doing much of what I've done in my campaign, and that is recruit deputy voter registrars, make sure that there are enough trainings that are provided for volunteers who want to participate in the voter registration process. That is really not a hard thing to do. We did a fantastic job of recruiting and also registering voters, going to our college campuses and catching our students who have escaped high school without being registered to vote. So one of the things that I would be advocating for is the enforcement of registering our 18-year-old students. They're not being registered across the entire state of Texas. So that's one of those groups that is totally being disenfranchised by the state of Texas.
Could you please discuss an example of a time that you may have made a decision that was not necessarily popular or politically expedient, but that you felt was in the interest of the citizens and taxpayers of Harris County? And follow-up, how important do you feel that it is for this position to be independent of partisan influence?
Well, a little bit of my background in court administration is that I ran those tax dockets. And those are the cases, excuse me, those are the property tax cases that are delinquent, and they've made it to the court level. It's not always popular to work with the collection agent, but most times you could work with the collection agent to give those taxpayers an opportunity to take care of their business before they lose their properties. That's not always a popular thing to do. Fortunately, I've worked with judges when I was in court administration that took a great interest in making sure that taxpayers had every opportunity to take care of their obligations and not lose their properties.
Excellent. So you had mentioned a little bit about this in your prior response, but how, if elected to tax assessor-collector, how would you plan to increase voter registration after this election and into the future?
It's an ongoing thing. You don't stop doing it. That's a very big part of that office. And what I've witnessed over the years, just like other folks in this county, is that there hasn't been a real push to register voters and to have people become civically engaged. Civic engagement is the clue. If we're reaching out to our kids in high school and we're taking the voting machines there to show them how to vote, if that's their first time voting, that's much of what we've done in this campaign, is to hold the hands of those first time voters and make sure that they are comfortable, that they know how to use the machines. As a matter of fact, I believe we've posted several of the League of Women Voters demos where you showed our voters how to vote by mail, to use the machines, and that is very beneficial, especially for folks who may not have an opportunity to leave their house. So technology is where it's happening, and it's the greatest medium that we could use in educating and empowering our citizens.
Earlier you mentioned the process of purging the voter rolls. Historically, the county has purged about 1,000 voters every 2 years. And if you could please explain how that process works to the voters and whether or not you feel that it is fair, objective, and transparent.
I don't feel that it's fair, objective, or has been transparent. And I do understand that those rolls have to be maintained and they have to be purged. And those folks are put in what they're calling now the suspense file. People move around, and especially young people. If you haven't changed your address at the post office, you're subject to be dropped off those rolls. So there's got to be a better way of maintaining those folks and not having people fall off because of errors that are made in the tax office or in the Secretary of State's office. We spend a great deal of time helping people run down what their problems are. I would know better when I get in the office exactly what the problem is, but I do understand that by law they do maintain those rolls and they purge them after you have not been actively voting over the past 2 presidential elections. So I do understand that, but I do have to question some of the other activities that may possibly be taking place in that office.
So property taxes have increased quite a bit for many Houstonians over the last few years. Do you feel that this is a trend that needs to be addressed? And if so, how would you address it as Harris County Tax Assessor-Collector?
Well, my property taxes went up with everybody else's, and I do protest every year. They're going up an automatic 10%. That is an issue that's going to have to be addressed by the legislature. I could advocate for property tax for property owners, the same that I would as online voter registration or Medicaid expansion or anything else. What many folks don't understand about this office is that it doesn't really assess anything. It is a collection agency. So advocating and having a voice at the appraisal district, that's one vote, but at least you have a voice. Those are some of the things that I would do to help advocate for fair and equitable property tax appraisal and assessment.
Excellent, thank you.
Do you feel that the tax assessor collector's office is sufficiently resourced? And if not, what additional resources would you work to add?
That is a question that I really can't answer because I'm not in the office, and so I don't know where the deficiencies are. I would have to get there. I would expect that I would need to do some form of an audit, whether it's independent or through the county auditor's office. That would be, that's one of those things that questions I can't answer until I get there and see where the problems are.
Excellent. So do you feel that it's efficient for Harris County residents to do business with the county? What areas do you think could use some improvement?
In the tax assessor collector's office?
Yes,
Well, the long lines, processing people through those lines and having online supervisors that are walking those lines and making sure that taxpayers or citizens that are coming there to get their license tags or conduct business are not standing in line only to get to the head of the line and find out that they're missing something. There's also software out there that can help you process that. I know that there are heavy times of the month when people are meeting deadlines for their car registration. You have to anticipate that that's what's going to happen, and also have the staff there to take care of that business. There shouldn't be any closed windows when you have long lines. We shouldn't have people who are disabled standing in long lines, only to see that there's one chair with a handicap sign for someone to sit. It's just unacceptable. So there are all types of ways logistically that we can solve some of those problems with waiting in line or being efficient and taking care of people's businesses, having an area for what we might consider problems, where those people can get out of line, they can go and sit at a table and discuss and take care of their business. All transactions don't take 5 or 10 minutes. Sometimes it takes 25 or 30 minutes or even longer to take care of people's business. So that's one of my main things, and to make sure that we are serving our folks who have disabilities and making it easy for them to take care of the business.
Excellent, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Earlier, you had mentioned delinquent property taxes. If you could please explain how somebody can become delinquent on their property taxes, and then what your personal strategy would be to address those delinquencies.
Well, the model that I would use would be very much like what they've done in Travis County. And that is, once the statements have gone out, and they become delinquent, you make those phone calls, you send out mail. If they don't respond, then you've just about done all that you can. That is what I say, a way of reaching out and making folks feel comfortable. Here's what I have found, is that many times people put their head in the sand and they think it's going to go away, and it's not going to go away. It just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. It ends up in the state district courts by way of the law firm that does the collection. And I would like to see in my administration the type of customer-friendly attitude that we can call our taxpayers and say, Miss Johnson, you're behind on your taxes. Come on and let's work something out. Because if you can just give us a little something and keep paying on time, then you won't end up in a situation where I have to turn you over to the lawyers that collect taxes, and then you find yourself in state district court with legal fees and all types of penalties. So I think you have to take the time to educate some of our taxpayers, and especially situations where parents have gotten older and their children are maybe not here, or maybe they have grandchildren or neighbors who are helping them take care of their business, that they feel comfortable knowing that they can call the tax office. Everybody's afraid of the tax office. Everybody's afraid of the IRS. And so taking that fear factor out and educating and empowering our taxpayers, I think would amount to a higher collection rate and a much better opinion of what the tax assessor collector is. No tax bullying, no showing up on people's doorsteps. We can't be doing that. That's not the country we live in.
Well, Ms. Harris-Bennett, thank you for joining us. Our final question to you is actually just to address the voters and look into the camera and tell them why they should vote for you during this early voting period.
First of all, thank you. Thank you both. Thank the League for all that you do in registering voters. And I am Ann Harris-Bennett. I'm going to bring integrity, transparency. I'm going to save you money. We're going to run an efficient office, take politics and cronyism out of an office that has no business having that in it. Well, I would look forward to serving all the citizens of the county, because you pay the taxpayer and voter registrar a salary. So I want to work for you. Thank you. My name is Ann Harris-Bennett, and I would love to have your vote. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, and we will be right back with a wrap-up after this. Welcome back to Conversations with the Candidates, brought to you by the League of Women Voters Education Fund and Houston Media Source. Early voting has begun, so you should go out and vote. You can figure out where to vote by going to the Harris County website. You can also Google it, and Google has results that will show you exactly where you can vote early, and you can vote at any early voting location. If you want to know how to fill out your ballot, the League of Women Voters has helped you with that. They have interviewed the candidates and gotten their responses and printed them verbatim in a voter's guide. If you go to LWV, League of Women Voters, Houston.org, the voter's guide link is right there at the top. Download it, print it out. You can bring one sheet of paper with you to the ballot. You can also go to vote411.org to get more information, and I can't stress this enough. If you're watching this conversations with the candidates, you're probably going to go vote. Do it. Harris County is experiencing record turnouts, and it's really exciting for all of us at the League to see democracy in action like this. So thank you so much for joining us. On behalf of my co-host, Amy Carl, my name is Jeff Reichman, and we'll see you next time.
you.